Hey there, my friends. This is Dave Wood, and I was going to do a video talking about something or other that was important, but I decided to change it because it's freezing cold outside here. So what I want to do instead is I wanted to talk to you about the age of the superhero. I was talking to a friend the other day on Facebook, and they asked me, I was talking to him about, there's this new Avengers movie or Superman movie or whatever. I don't watch any TV and barely any commercials. And so, I'm pretty lost unless somebody tells me there's a movie I usually don't even know. And so I was talking to this person about how I'm going to turn into a superhero. And she was like, no, you're not, it's gonna be, I was like, it's gonna be exactly like that movie, right? Exactly. Well, I don't know, because I haven't seen that particular movie. But what do I mean? Well, let me explain what's going to happen here over the next few years, okay? And let me explain it from multiple perspectives. Number one, if Jesus could walk on water, and if he said to us that we could do greater things than he did, just by that virtue alone, if humanity had enough faith, a lot of the things that I've been talking about for the last 2 years are actually possible, right? You got to admit they're at least possible. Jesus said if you had faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you'd say to that mountain, or that mountain back there, be thou removed, and be cast into the sea, and it would jump off into the sea, right? I mean, that's basically what he said, right? So now we have Jesus saying stuff like that, and then Moses slams a staff in the Red Sea and parts the Red Sea, and there's like a physical wall of water on two sides that then swallows the Egyptians. And I mean, we're not even talking about all the weird things like, the people being taken into heaven and stuff the apostles did, where the apostles used to just walk into a room and Peter's shadow would fall on people, and they'd get healed of diseases and stuff. People used to just touch Jesus's robe and they'd get healed of stuff. Why does stuff like that not happen yet in as great abundance today as it used to happen in the early New Testament? It's actually really simple. It's because people don't have faith like they used to have. That's really the only reason, okay? Now, there's a couple ways of expanding your faith. You can do lots of meditation. You can do lots of prayer. There's plants that will do it, that will help. But the reality is, because faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So anything that makes your brain produce more serotonin, and then natural hallucinogens, there's natural hallucinogens produced by the brains, will produce more faith. The substance of things hoped for, serotonin, the evidence of things not seen, is hallucinogens, right? And the brain has lots of natural hallucinogens, I'm certain. I know that we have discovered one right now, and that's dimethyltryptamine. But anyways, there's ways of creating exogenous ketones. It's like exogenous faith. You can do that, or you could also do it through lots of meditation, prayer, worship, for example. I've been in the morning spending an hour reading and worshiping and stuff like that, and I did that originally, get rid of I had some dark energy that was attacking me and stuff like that, and I was struggling a little bit with depression, and then that got rid of it. And so the reality is, though, is that my question that I want to postulate for you and really all of humanity is, why don't people have enough faith to move mountains? Well, reality, let me explain. If I pick up this rock, I'm not really sick, I'm just coughing, it's cold. If I pick up this rock, right, everybody agree that this is a little perfectly triangulated rock that I just did, right? And there's a lot that I could say about this rock. There's a lot I could say about the atomic structure of the rock. If I was a geologist or knew that stuff, which that's not really my field of expertise. Not yet, anyway. I'll learn it all eventually. I got time, you know what I mean? But the reality is that if I pick this up and I touch it, it's very there, you know what I mean? This is there. If I put it on the ground and my brother came up, he can actually find this rock. It's still there. And so there's a tangible asset to reality, right? However, here's what I'm going to say, is that this rock is not really a rock like you see it, okay? and like I see it, and like I'm holding it. In fact, you're actually experiencing a different manifestation of the rock watching the video than I am by holding it in my hand. I think you'd agree with that. I feel the weight. I feel the wind blowing on it. I can smell it. It doesn't really smell like much. I don't have really the greatest sense of smell that's ever been on the face of the earth. But this rock, right, is actually more empty space than it is solid matter. That's what modern physicists would say. Anyway, most of this is empty space. You got the, little protons, and you got electrons swirling around, and neutrons and stuff like that. And there's like tons of empty space. In fact, at a deeper level, let's say the superstring theory is true, some sort of deep level in the universe, and that's partially true. It's like almost all empty space. I mean, almost. This is basically just energy. All this is energy, right? And the Buddha would say, what would Buddha say about this? Well, Buddha would say that this is consciousness. This is what it is. It's consciousness. This is less consciousness, perhaps, than a brain. Perhaps more. I doubt it. Really, it's less. Less consciousness than human brain, perhaps. But really, all this is quantum mechanical energy decohering into the physical universe. That's all that it is. So therefore, let me explain. When the quantum energy of society increases, spiritual manifestations increase. Like, for example, I was in, it was a Release Your Inner Badass event in Austin, Texas, and I was doing the chunking exercises, chunking up to people's purposes, and everybody started shouting out their purposes, and there was a group of people outside the room that felt a heat wave go off the room and blow through them, and they didn't even know what was going on. They didn't even know what we were doing in the room. So all this quantum burst from people tying to their purpose happened at the same time, and a heat wave and almost knocked some camera people over in the hallway that were just like out on a break, and they didn't even know what was going on in the room, and they got like hit by a heat wave. They're like, what's going on in there, right? There's been a lot of very weird spiritual manifestations around me my entire life, and there's some other people that are like that too. I don't know anybody that has had the extent of spiritual manifestations in their life as me. There's some enlightened people that are up there, but I don't know anyone. I've met a couple of enlightened people, but they don't have the stuff happen that I have happen. They have other stuff happen though, and they experience a similar kind of thing. My point is that it's not saying me versus them or whatever. My story's better than your story or whatever it is, right? We've all got great stories. My point is that when because I have a lot of faith, I have a lot of manifestations. In fact, I actually got to be really careful with what I even talk about, because I'm so good at manifesting whatever it is that I talk about that I better be talking about something good. You know what I mean? It's really important for me to do that. Like really, really, really important, right? Like if I have an intention, like I run into the right people at the right place at the right time, no matter where I'm at. Like for example, how did I get this camera? Well, I was over in California in Carlsbad, driving around, and I see Arthur Tubman hanging out there. I was like, hey, what's going on, Arthur? And he's like, yeah, Dave, good to see you, man. I don't know if he was following me around because he knew I was in California on the street. This is when I was on the streets or whatever, right? And, I went over and he hooked me up with a really nice camera and a nice cell phone. And then I have a camera. I've had a nice camera and a cell phone since then. But, the reality is this is what I needed. I needed this. Without this, I wouldn't even be able to do what I'm doing right now. Right? Without this camera, I wouldn't be able to do it. So, Arthur Tubman, thank you. I know you watch my videos and stuff. The reality is, hold on. The reality is that I'm just thinking about how I need resources and they appear. That's what happens, right? Now, that on a very small level is quantum manifestation. You have an idea in your consciousness, you visualize it, and it manifests into reality. So what's the difference between what I just described and teleporting an object? Well, there really isn't one. Now, can I take this rock right now and cause it to instantaneously teleport to another location? No, I'm not there yet, right? I have done things like that before, though. Like, for example, I was sitting in a room and I was trying to get into a sealed glass container with a glued on top, okay? There's a crown that my grandpa's had. Then he passed away, and so it's in my house. And I was trying to get on it because I wanted to put it on my head and make a King David video, right? Because I thought that'd be funny. Of course, I didn't realize that even if I got in there, and I didn't know how I was going to get in because it was glued on top and there was no way in, the whole thing was like bolted in, right? So it was like impossible to get out of there. So I'm sitting there and I'm visualizing myself entering into this space, right? And then what happens is I reached to touch the top to see if I missed anything. And I just went to touch it and the whole top was gone. So the top to this glass container, it was gone. And I was like, where'd it go, right? Well, I look all over the place. I'm like, I don't want to, break this thing or whatever. The sealed glass piece teleported. It had teleported 2 feet to the right. In other words, it was glued on there. I didn't use any ungluing stuff. I wasn't using any wedge. I didn't even touch it. I was just thinking about it, and then the top disappeared. Another time, I was with some other people, and there was a giant piece of glass that teleported somewhere. And stuff like this has actually happened quite a lot. In fact, one time I was looking for my remote control, and I couldn't find it. I was like, where's the remote control? Right? I was looking all over the place, and it literally appeared out of nothing into thin air and dropped 4 feet, sitting right next to me on the bed. Right? And so this is what faith can do. So what's stopping faith from doing that? I know another guy that can slow down time and walk somewhere that takes 45 minutes in 5 minutes. Right? I know lots of people that can bilocate. A lot. I can do it sometimes. Actually, yesterday, I was down at the temple and I was doing a singing video. And while I was doing a singing video, this is like, I don't know, 700 yards away from, I don't know, 7 blocks, however long that is. Maybe 700 yards or whatever. Away from Johnny's store. And he literally, heard me talking outside of his store and saw me driving away in that car while I was in a different location. How the heck did that happen? You say, well, maybe it was somebody else. No. I was bilocating. Right? I actually bilocated with the car because it's weird quantum manifestations that happen around me when spiritual energy is really high. Now, the problem with that is I can't really, for example, I can't control them yet. My consciousness isn't disciplined, and I don't know exactly how to do them unless there's a group of people around. If there's a group of people around, I can exercise the collective faith of the group, and then we can do weird stuff as a group. For example, one time I was driving in a car. We actually moved backwards in time an hour and a half. Me and my friend. Right? It was like 2:30, and we jumped backwards in time to like before 1 o'clock. Right? Because we were late somewhere. Weird quantum phenomenon. Right? With quantum phenomenon, teleportation is possible. Now, what else is possible with quantum phenomena? I'm going to suggest that if Jesus says you can say to a mountain, "Be thou removed," and it's gone, right? My suggestion to you is that anything is possible, including turning ourselves into superheroes, which is what I've been talking about for the last 2 years. We've been needing to do it for a long time. I actually sent a message to Donald J. Trump about it, and of course he didn't respond to that. Yeah, I know he reads those messages though, and I know he's probably waiting for me to like follow up and figure out how to contact him or whatever, which is impossible. Or he's just waiting for me to go out and make $1 million a month, and then he'll do it. But whatever he's waiting for, we need to hurry that up, right? My brain's not quite there yet, not quite trained enough to do it anyway, but I'm close. Maybe another month or something, I'd be able to do it. But in any case, how do you create superheroes? Well, when the consciousness expands to a certain degree, right? And your focus ability expands to a certain degree, and the quantum mechanical energy expands to a certain degree, and the electricity and the energy expands to a certain degree. It would give a person who is trained and a very disciplined consciousness the ability to manipulate space-time directly and to manipulate their own biology and psychology and their own brain mass, for example. I do this actually all the time with my brain mass because this is actually quite easy to do, but it's just very slow. Like, so for example, it's like ultra-fast neurogenesis is what I do. But it still is neurogenesis, and neurogenesis takes time. It takes time to grow new neural pathways, you know. Now, I had to do a lot of brain repair from what had happened to me, right? A lot. And I'm, you know, my brain is pretty repaired, you know, I'd say. But it took me a long time to do that. Like, a long time, a lot of work, and plus, you know, plant medicines, you know. And so, in any case, very disciplined consciousness could, for example, see into their microbiology, and they could learn how to produce their own substances inside their biology. They could learn to make their own atomic configurations, their own molecules, and things like this, just with their consciousness. Because all this is just emerging from the imagination. Now, quantum energy has to be sufficient, and energy and electricity has to be sufficient, and there has to be sufficient faith, right? So, for example, if I could get a lot of people believing in what I'm talking about, I could do a lot more miracles. It's not about believing in me, it's about believing in Jesus, that he could do it. Believe in your higher power could do it, right? We don't need to take credit for miracles. But we could manifest a lot more miracles if people would believe. A lot more, right? Because all things are possible to them that believe. So the quantum manifestation would allow you to manipulate your microbiology, right? And manipulating your microbiology, you could do all sorts of things. Like, for example, somebody could, we're talking about immortality for a long time. There's a lot of ways to skin cat, right? I really think there's only one good way with the immortality. For example, you could utilize quantum mechanical consciousness to regrow your telomeres. I mean, Buddhist monks do things like this they grow moles and make them disappear and stuff like this. And then make it so your telomeres don't get shortened at all. Somebody with powerful enough consciousness could do that. You could also manipulate the skin density, your bone density, your brain density, change atomic structures in your biology, absorb different minerals into your biology that normal people wouldn't even be able to use or might be dangerous to them, and you should be able to absorb them. There's all sorts of things that the human body can do. So what's going to happen to me? Well, let me explain. There's going to be a time in the future, and if I had resources, but I could have gotten the resources, so I'm not going to blame you for this. 2 years ago, probably I could have done this 6 months ago. You know what I mean? And as a result of me not doing it, of course, the enemy kingdom has grown quite large behind the scenes, and my kingdom really hasn't, because I've been trying to find my message, and telling the truth is always, it's always more tasking to always tell the truth like I do than it is to somebody that lies, right? It's always more difficult to tell the truth. So I've been really working on telling the truth. And the thing about the truth, nobody wants to listen to the truth. Nobody wants to hear the enemy's here. Nobody wants to hear there's a war coming. Nobody wants to hear that we're about to implode as a society. They don't want to hear about it. Why don't they want to hear about it? They don't want to hear about it because they're all messed up inside their heart. They don't know what to believe about anything. I got 2 minutes left. So, at a time in the future, I'll be on top of Mount Zion, and I'll have those IVs dripping into me with minerals and other sorts of things that I really got to talk to the United States about it, because number one, if I tried to do it, it'd probably be illegal. But number two, we'd need some scientists involved. And then basically what happens is that I master my own atomic biology. In somewhere over a period of 40 days or something like that, I'm doing this. And then what happens is my body starts generating its own food, starts generating its own energy, starts generating its own copious amounts of natural hallucinogens in the brain, like the ones that you can produce at a way higher level than what anybody could take ever. At that point, I've conquered everything. And then what'll happen is I'll start pulling the bones and the minerals out of my body and remaking them and putting them back in my body, and it'll start exponentially compounding. My skin will become unbelievably hard, and then I will pull like a superhero suit, collapse it into this universe through manifestation from the Elven universe, which exists, I've got 15 seconds left, which exists in the Singularity universe. I've talked about that. And then I'll leave the Earth for a while, and when I leave, all hell will break loose. I won't leave for that long. It'll be 3 days, but it will seem like quite long to people because all hell will break loose. And then when I come back, I'll set things straight. And it'll be known as the Age of the Superhero. The Age of the Superhero is coming, my friends. Better than the movies, I'm telling you. The movies can't even imagine the stuff we're going to be able to do. It's that much cooler than even the movies. I'm talking to all of us. I'm talking to everybody in society. And some of us will be able to do more big things. The 144,000. But anyways, I'm out of time. I love you. Go to thekingdomofeloheim.org, the Agent Superhero.